Well, welcome once again. This is the Doctor of Digital podcast. Purpose of the show is to transform your business in life with education and inspiration. I introduce busy people to trends in ideas, technology, and improving your life by highlighting people you should know. What does it take to build a legacy in the world of corporate photography? Join me as I sit down with Lesle Lane, founder of Studio 13, to explore the secrets behind her family's multi generational business. With over 3 decades of experience in the industry, Leslie has honed her skills as a photographer and leader, earning her MBA from Indiana Wesleyan and serving on the Alumni Board at her alma mater, Butler University. Leslie's extensive experience in corporate image making has equipped her with the expertise to deliver high quality assets that support her clients' brand strategies. With a diverse team of photographers and associates, Studio 13 has built a reputation for excellence, accuracy, and brand transparency. As we dive into our conversation, Leslie will share her insights on what sets her company apart and how she approaches collaboration with clients to elevate the custom photography experience. During this episode, we'll do a deep dive into the changes and hot topics of photography and the biggest challenges. I will leverage the expertise of my guest and how to navigate the unique dynamics of the field. By the end of this episode, you'll be better equipped to know what to do, and I encourage you to contact my guest, Lesle Lane, founder and CEO of Studio 13. With that, I want to welcome Leslie to the program. How are you today?
I'm doing great. Thanks so much for having me today.
You bet. So I appreciate you taking out some time for a busy schedule and very curious about this as well. It's multi-generational. So if you could tell us a little bit about photography and how you got into this field.
Well, as I said, three generations of photographers. My grandparents were portrait wedding photographers. My
Wow.
father, my stepmother, my stepfather, and my mother, all photographers. And so it was kind of bred in me that I was probably going to do this. I
Sure.
had a camera in my hand by the time I was 6 years old. And the problem came in that my stepfather, who is the person that started this incantation of the business, didn't think women could really be commercial photographers because it's
Oh,
something that men do. And so I did not like portrait wedding photography at all. And he just had it set in his mind that we were going to corner the market in Indianapolis and I was going to do the portrait wedding and he was going to do the corporate work. And
wow.
I just would not follow suit with that. And so very early on, I knew that the assignment type of photography was what I really wanted to do. And unfortunately, tragedy struck, and my stepfather was taken out of the business after having multiple strokes. And so at
Mm.
21 years old, I took over his business and have worked in this industry since I was in my early 20s, and then working to change with everything that's happened in the industry and to get where I am today, which is a little bit different than what it was back then, but
Sure.
still serving a lot of the community in Indianapolis and really around the country.
Yeah, it's fascinating because photography has really changed a lot. So, I mean, I'm not a photographer, but I've seen this myself. And I'll give you an example. So, when I was a kid, many, many years ago, a camera was even sort of hard to have and to get because most people didn't have them. And of course, we're living in an age where everybody's got them with digital and iPhones and what have you. So I'm curious, what could you address this whole issue of the changes that have taken place? Because there's enormous things that have changed with photography over the years.
Sure. I mean, it has been an amazing time to be in the field. I'm very fortunate that my parents and grandparents were both pioneers in the industry, so change didn't really bother me. In fact, I think I was young enough to just be dumb enough to think I could do just about anything. And so when digital really was coming into being, I
Yeah.
wasn't afraid. Commercial photography has always been going digital. So even when you shot a piece of film, it would be scanned so that it could be printed. And so that transition was very natural for me that we were going to change digital. What really struck a little bit harder than just changing from film to digital was the accessibility you're talking about for people to have cameras.
Right.
And Eastman Kodak always said they wanted everybody in the world to have a camera. Well, now they do, and Eastman Kodak's not here. So
Yeah. Right.
it's very
Exactly.
different.
So, when you talk about this, and could you address the topics and hot topics in photography and how it's impacted photography? Because now I'm really curious to delve into this since everybody does have a camera, do you run into the things where people would say, well, then why do I need you? What's the difference? I mean, I've got a camera and you got a camera, but how are you better?
I think during times of recession, people are more likely to try to do some things themselves. But during times of abundance, people realize that just because they have a camera does not make them a photographer, especially with what we're doing, where we are really trying to elevate people's brands. So we give them, let's just take headshots, for example. We may have to do hundreds of headshots that need a level of consistency that the average photographer can't do, where
Right.
we may show up 3, 4 times a year and we need them to all look consistent. The other thing that's very challenging is we shoot architectural interiors and exteriors, very complicated from a lighting standpoint, from an
Mhm.
editing standpoint. So I feel like that the only time people anymore are trying to do it themselves are really when there's a budget crunch in their marketing
Right.
department, or if they're a startup. But otherwise, I'm really very fortunate that I'm not running into a lot of people that balk at what I do. Especially if you look at my website, you can certainly see that what we do
Sure.
is quite different than the average photographer.
Yeah, there's no question about it. So it's like I defer and obviously see that. And the person who's thinking, and the business person who's thinking correctly should realize the tremendous advantages because yeah, I can snap pictures, but they're no good, right? Basically, when it comes to quality. Can you talk about how you work with businesses and what advantages there are? Because kind of one of the things about what you're doing is branding. I think that's really critical for a business.
It really is. And we come in partnership with whether they've got an internal marketing department, whether they're using an ad agency on the outside. We're just one element of their brand strategy. And so our job is to push that through the images. So we added this year drone work. We added a little bit of light video, not
Nice.
anything that's a production, but let's just say for one of my architects, they want a walkthrough of the building. We'll start with a drone angle, we'll come
Mm,
through and they'll have a 90-second video that they can post on their website that is along with the still photography that we're handing them. So it's a collaborative effort to make sure that whatever transparency they're trying to relay to their clients, we're right alongside with them. The other thing we do make is that we're
yeah.
production managers almost. So where somebody comes to us with a job, we're trying to schedule everything for them, coordinate with people, anything we can do to take it off their laps, because a lot of corporate America now, they're tight. People are, there's not an overabundance of resources. And so they need people to come alongside and do that coordination with them so that they can move on to other things that they have on their plate. So I feel like we're a true partnership in that aspect.
Yeah, and I think you're correct that most businesses don't have a photography unit or division, right? So I mean,
Right.
when you have a unique service like that, I mean, almost no company is really prepared for that. They don't have the professionalism and they don't have all the expertise, the equipment and everything. But it was also an interesting idea of the whole drone technology because drones are obviously in the news, especially in the last several weeks or so. But I mean, that's another fresh aspect of what you can offer a business and also a new way of branding too. I mean, I think all kinds of applications in real estate. I don't have to go to a property, but if I had a drone, I can see it from the air. I can go through the building or, what have you. So could you give us some suggestions of what kinds of things you do for clients along those lines?
Video has been very interesting again because we're doing it in conjunction with the drones, which is normally in conjunction with what either I'm shooting or one of my associates are shooting. But just one of the most exciting jobs for that part of our business we've done was that the city of Brownsburg over on the other side of Indianapolis had a festival, like a Christmas festival at
See.
sunset with a parade and Christmas villages. And we came in and we did both stills and video and drone to show all the townspeople enjoying that festival that then they can push out for advertising the other events that they have in their town. Just trying to draw people into towns by showing them how much fun it is. So that's just one service along with the event still photography. And then coming in with the product photography, we do food photography, location, architecture, interior, headshots, environmental, groups. Those are, just we call ourselves a generalist because if
Right.
you're doing anything in corporate branding, we can most likely handle it for you.
So could you walk us through, because you're really showing different aspects. I mean, I think when I say photography, I think, well, a still photography and that's it. However, what you're really doing is sort of this comprehensive and a full service. So could you walk us through the process? Company comes to you, said, okay, we have this idea. How do you transition them into saying, this is how we're going to best present your company?
Sure. As long as it's not a ad. So like if somebody wants a commercial where they need a video production of a commercial, we're probably not the right fit for them. If
Okay.
they're just looking to add light video to their stills or drone work to their building, that's a perfect fit for us. So we don't pretend to compete with the big video production houses. We're just trying to add services to their branding that promote it. So if they come to us and they say, hey, we'd like a 90-second reel of our event that's just going to give us a recap, we want to put it on our website along with the still photographs, that's a great step for us. We're competitive from a price standpoint, and the fact that they don't have to call two vendors for their video and their stills, that really gives us a leg up, especially if we have a company come to us and say we need headshots, architecturals, and event photography. I've got 3 different associates that can shoot all that because people are wound for time. They do not have time to
Mhm.
go looking for a vendor for headshots, a vendor for event photography, and a vendor for drone work. So it's really all about just serving our clients to the best of our ability.
And the advantage of just in general photography is visuals, right? So I mean, if you think of almost any visual application, I could talk all day and describe something, but the phrase "a picture's worth 1,000 words." Just show me a picture of something and I'll get it. I think that's the advantage for clients.
Absolutely. Even some of our larger shots that we've done. So let's take like we did a stadium in Cincinnati. We've done our local stadium here where they're trying to sell suites. They need to sell those suites. Well, you might get a company that's not even based out of Indianapolis or Cincinnati. So they have those photographs and sometimes those video walkthrough tours that make it so that they can sell those suites without the client being present.
And I was curious then, is this more or less local to your area? Like how far geographically would you reach? Do you have to be in your area or do you stretch a little bit, or where would people be able to work with you?
Well, we go all over the country. So I'll be in Denver in January. I'll be in Miami in February. And these are companies that want a level of consistency. So we're going out for different sales team meetings, and they want to put me in each of these meetings across the country so that all of the photographs all look the same. They just don't want them to look different. And so that would be the reason why we would reach a more national level, is to give that level of consistency that our clients require.
Yeah, that's what I was curious about, because if you might be limited to one area, but you're not really, because you can show, and a company has things throughout the year, so there's a level of that consistency. It's going to have the same look to it because it's the same people doing it, and so you can really have consistent branding as well.
Absolutely.
So, how long has the company been around? Because you had several generations, and where are we going with this? Like, how is it going to continue?
So my father's business, my stepfather's business, was started back in the 40s. And so even though the name's not the same, the incantation of how this business is run, corporate photography, is the same. So Studio 13's only been around for about 15 years. I had to go through a rebrand due to a small little divorce problem. And so we started that about 15 years ago, but it's really just a continuance of my stepfather's business. And where are we going in the future? Well, I feel like that the area of photography has changed again because so many workers don't want to run a business. They want to just be a photographer. And so they want to take pictures, and that's great, but there's so much more that goes into it. There's the networking, and then there's the business development, and there's bookkeeping and accounting and editing, all these things that go into delivering not only consistent brand of images, but also on time and efficiently. And so what I've done is I've leaned into that gig economy, and I've started bringing on these associate shooters where the generations prior to me were W-2 employees, salaried. Now all of my people are contract. I even have administrators and editors and social media people that are all on contract with me so that they can live the life they want. And I feel like, this next generation of people, I really am fond of what they're thinking, which is balance. I don't want to work that hard. And so I'm leaning into that. I'm also keeping my eye on AI. I'm keeping what is going to happen with this, where is it going? And as a pioneering family, I'm not afraid of that either. I hope I can make that into a tool as we see what's going to progress. What can it do for my business to either make me more efficient or establish a new look and style? So I think it's really exciting what's happening in the industry, especially the corporate side. I'm excited about the future.
I didn't think of this previously, but that's an interesting topic, and I was not aware of what sort of impact AI has on photography. Maybe you could elaborate a little bit out. That's kind of interesting concept.
Sure. So Photoshop has always had an element of AI in it. So we've been able to circle an object and remove it for 10 years. It's just that it's getting better. So what the software can produce is getting better. It's getting faster, where you can literally, like I had a brick wall one time that had a sign on it, and they wanted the sign off. And bricks are hard to do editing on. And AI just took right care of it, took that sign right out, and it was like the sign never existed. So again, it's pushing us to be more efficient. It's pushing us to do things better than maybe a person could do in that circumstance. Now, I was talking to a friend of mine that is in an ad agency, and she said, Leslie, AI doesn't have a soul. And so as long as your work requires a soul and it requires a person to interact with it, I think you're going to be okay. Well, we can't really hide our head in the sand too much. We really need to be open to what it has to offer. Can it create images without a human? Right now, you can tell the difference. Right now, when it's not real. And I think that my clients, particularly because that transparency is so important to their clients. I work with lawyers, I work with doctors, I work with investment advisors. They're going to want original imagery because they don't want that fakeness to be in front of their clients. So again, I think it's exciting. I think there's a lot going on that I need to keep my eyes on. But for now, I'm hopeful it will be another tool and another transition in the industry.
Yeah, I got very innovative frame of mind there. That's what it seems like. Another aspect I hadn't thought about, so I thought it was an interesting thing to consider the gig economy and the people so the business itself has changed. So you're pretty adaptable when it comes down to saying that this is a new way of doing business. However, I'm going to roll with the punches and incorporate those folks in here. Maybe you could talk a little bit about that as well. I'm curious.
Absolutely. What this allows me to do is I've chosen specific photographers that have specialties, some of them that are specialties I don't have. So I don't shoot events. I'm not good at it, and I don't like it. And so I brought on people now that we are getting a lot of event photography, and I'm passing it on to my associates who love that kind of work. It brings them joy. And so it's just a way for me to reach out to photographers and say, hey, I've got the clients. I've been working in this industry for a long time. Come alongside me and I'll bring you work, and then you shoot the jobs for me. I'm only one person. I am running a business here with 9 associates on my team. I have to deal with all the editing, even though I don't do it myself. I have to run it through my business, the accounting, the bookkeeping, the payroll. And so sometimes I'm too busy to take on a specific job. And so I have a book of business, basically, where I have written out policies and procedures and standard operating practices so that my associates can take that on location and pretty much replicate what I do. I have it down to the f-stops and the lens selections and everything, so that if I can't make it, or let's say I get sick, I mean, as a sole proprietor, you got to have backup. And now, for the first time in my career, I've got a great team of people to back me up.
And just out of curiosity, now that I'm thinking about it, because it's really a fresh approach, which I appreciate, could you go global with this? Because it seems like, well, you might find people in other countries and other places. I mean, you're not going to Thailand, but I mean, there may be really good qualified people that are in Thailand or somewhere else.
You sound just like my husband. That's exactly what he's thinking. He's like, I
Okay.
think this is scalable. He said, I think that this is repeatable, the way that I'm putting
Yeah.
together these, they're just books of business. This is how I handle this book of business.
Hmm.
Here's how I quote it. The jobs where I'm traveling, we've got to deal with hotels and airfare and,
Yeah.
shipping my gear around the country. And so all of that is set up as a practice. And so, yes, I'm hopeful that it will continue to scale
Okay.
and grow.
Interesting. So kind of like it's really fresh that I'm kind of excited because it's gotten me think about something I hadn't thought about before. Could you provide some actionable tips? In other words, talk to us about why a business should be engaging in this and if they haven't, and what sort of tips would you recommend?
So another photographer doing this, or why people should hire me?
Yeah, it's like kind of the both. Like, why? I mean, plug yourself. Like,
Yeah, yeah. So I think if somebody wanted to do business like me, let's just start with that. It would certainly take somebody that had been invested in the industry and in their community for quite some time,
mhm,
because this all came out of a mother of necessity. So two things happened in my life. I lost my longtime assistant who helped me take over my dad's business. She passed away unexpectedly. And then the other thing that happened is I became full. So my schedule was full. And so there became a need to reach out and to start bringing people under my umbrella.
yeah,
Um, as far as doing business with me, it's going to sound so corny, Mick, so I apologize for saying this, but I'm in the business of photography. I'm not just a photographer. And that's kind of a big shift that's happening right now in the industry is
mm,
people just don't follow through. They don't. I email my clients once every 6 weeks to see if they have any new business. I'm meeting them at their networking sites where they are. I'm watching them on social media to see if they are having a rebrand. That's a great time to do new photography. Have they
mhm.
moved into a new facility? I'm one step ahead of
I
them,
see.
thinking about what they need, sometimes before they even think about it. And then everything else, on my website, we have a long list of this is what our procedure is when you come in house. Quotes get given within 24 hours. Do you need a location scout? All the things that go all the way through delivery of images and then invoicing, it's all done by the book. And so for me, that's a big thing about Studio 13. We are a business of photographers who come alongside you and take as much off your plate as we can so that you can go do the other things that you need to do.
Well, this is going to sound corny as well, too, but I find it very innovative and very exciting the way that you're presenting photography as something that people have not necessarily thought of or all of its applications. So I kind of applaud you for that. Kudos for you. Now, a person has heard all these things, the great things that you've done, the hot topics, the changes, and all those things. Could you tell us how do they reach out to you? How do they get a hold of you?
Sure. So studio13online.com. So we do have the online at the bottom of it. That's our website. There is a contact us page at the end. You can email me directly. I'm the one that receives those. You can also reach me on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram,
Okay.
Studio 13 on all three. And then also my name, Lesle Lane, Lesle. It is spelled odd, Lesle Lane. And you can reach me on all three of those platforms, and I'd be happy to talk to people.
Awesome. Leslie, thank you so much for taking out some time for your busy schedule and telling people about this wonderful world of photography and all of its applications that I be honest and authentic, I hadn't necessarily thought of, but it's very interesting to talk to you and find out all the great things that are happening in your field. Thank you for being my guest today.
Thank you for having me. Such a pleasure.
Likewise. Well, thank you so much. And hopefully you got as much learning as I did because got surprised. I learned something new, which is really terrific and awesome to do. I'd like to thank anybody who has been listening. You have a lot of choices in life. Also like to thank the supporters of the program, that is the publishers of both Burning America and On Track, Ian Hunter, for their support of the program. If you like what you're hearing, make sure that you share, positively review, and share everywhere on social media. You got a lot of choices. I appreciate any support. I am the idea to author coach, guiding your journey from draft to best-selling author. I help people publish books. I help people sell more books. So if you like what you're hearing, reach out to me. I'm free on Facebook. Like to talk to you, have a conversation. In any case, thanks for choosing the Doctor of Digital podcast. Until the next exciting episode, thanks for being my guest today, Deus Volt.